Hi, folks. This video is about kind of the journalistic style do's and don'ts. So these are things that might be a little bit different from what you're used to in maybe a traditional English writing class if you're writing an essay versus a news article. So these are not, it's not a comprehensive list of things that you should do in journalistic style of writing, but it is certainly common things that you're going to come across. So number one, do use short paragraphs. I know your English teachers are like screaming at you while you're making one sentence paragraphs. But as a journalist, we love it. Your paragraphs should be short, they should be punchy. Anytime you change ideas, you should be giving me a new sentence. So this is just a news story that I pulled from the Billings Gazette today. And take a look at these paragraphs: one sentence paragraph, two sentence paragraph, one sentence paragraph, two sentence paragraph. The next one is a one sentence paragraph. So it's not like super short, simple sentences all the time. Like, these paragraphs do have some detail, but anytime we change ideas, give me a new paragraph. Kind of a general rule is 1 to 4 sentences is an average. On rare occasions, you're going to go up to 5 or 6, and that's if you're like, this is absolutely necessary. All this stuff has to fit together in one cohesive paragraph. Otherwise, you're going to break it up, right? Give your readers lots of visual breaks to see where your ideas are changing. Um, so that'll be helpful. All right, number two, start with the most interesting info, right? This goes back to the idea of the inverted paragraph. So here's a bad idea. James Green is a sophomore at Billings Senior High School. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten an article that starts off with like, this person is a sophomore, or this person goes to senior high. Not the most interesting thing. Like, we've got 500 sophomores at senior high. That's not what makes James Green interesting. Like, get right to the point. What makes this person unique? Put that most important info at the very beginning of your article. So maybe do something like this: getting hit in the face is just an after school activity for James Green. Ooh, now I'm interested. It makes sense. James Green, or Green, loves his daily MMA training classes. I'm sure there's someone who trains in MMA or boxing. So, like, there's a punchy lead where I've put, here's the most important, interesting information right at the beginning. It's not the fact that he's a sophomore. All right, do use the last name after the introduction of a person. So first time you're going to introduce someone, give me their full name. So maybe like Senior Reed T. Brown plans to be the first writer from Montana to work on Saturday Night Live. Brown found his talent and passion scribbling funny notes to his classmates in the third grade, right? There's an introduction to a character profile about a former student named Reed T. Brown. And every time, every subsequent reference to Reed, I'm going to use his last name, Brown. There's one um, change to this rule, and that's if you're talking about siblings or twins, right? Obviously, then you can't use just their last names. You've got to give me their first names for the rest of the article. But that's the one exception, is if people have the same last name, then then you're going to use their first names. Don't use personal pronouns. Uh, so if I'm doing an article about Mr. Barch, and Mr. Barch said, I think the bald look is in, said Barch, I pried for more information about his answer. Like, I literally wrote that into my essay, or in my article. I'm not going to do that. This article isn't about me. I'm not going to interject my article or myself into an article about Mr. Barch. That's pompous and arrogant to do as a journalist in most instances, right? Don't tell me what you did. Tell me what Mr. Barch did and what Mr. Barch is saying, right? So this should really look like this. I just think the bald look is in, says Mr. Barch. I'm really going for the Vin Diesel meets Patrick Stewart look. And I think he pulls it off, right? That's a handsome man right there. Um, I cut out that part where it said I pried for more information, or like I asked him a question. Doesn't change the article at all, like one little bit. It's still the same. So don't do it. Leave your personal pronouns out. And then similarly, don't ask that a question was asked, or don't say that a question was asked. Your readers assume that you did your research and you talk to people and you ask questions. That should be a given in journalism. So you don't have to say, I asked him about this and here's what he said. Just tell me what he said. Use what that person said as a jumping off point for a paragraph, not what you did, right? Again, get over yourself. You're going to be a good journalist. You don't need to tell everybody what you did. Um, so here's some examples of how I would take this and then kind of reframe it in my interviewees' words. And then one of the last ones is learn how to trim and punctuate quotes correctly. I'm actually going to do a whole nother video on this, but here's some just ideas. Remember, you don't have to use a full sentence as a quote. I can start and stop a quote wherever I want to, so long as the meaning of that quote isn't changed. So I can describe quotes as essential. And maybe the only word that I actually quoted from Mr. Restad is essential. So I would only put essential in quotes. I could do word or sentences. I could do phrases. I could do really short pieces. I could break up a long quotation like this, but pay attention to where these are punctuated, right? Look at how these are punctuated, where the periods and the quotation marks fall, where the commas fall, um, especially in ones where we're breaking up two quotes or jamming two quotes together like this. This is a great way to in-jam quotes with each other. So take a look at that and always attribute your quotes. Always say this, was said by this person. This was said by this person. Said Restad. Restad said. That's a must in journalism. I need to know where this information is coming from. All right, do, or they should actually say don't. Sorry, don't overuse verbs of being. So any of those am, is, are, was, were, have, had, be, being, been. If it's not an action, try to keep it to a minimal use within your articles. Now, there's going to be times where you're going to have to use these verbs of being, but especially use active voice and verbs when you can. So for an example, 2022 was an uphill battle for Mike Hutchinson. This sentence is about the year 2022, but that's probably not what my article is about. My article is probably going to be about Mike Hutchinson. So make him the subject of your sentence. Make him do something, right? So Mike Hutchinson faced an uphill battle in 2022. Much stronger verb, much more specific about some action that Mr. Hutchinson is going to be taking. And so just as a quick review, here's the common mistakes. No personal pronouns. Use the last name after the initial intro of a person. Start with the most interesting info and build from there. Don't say you asked a question. Don't even reference yourself at all, right? You're a journalist. You're supposed to be behind the scenes. They shouldn't see really a trace of you within your stories as our audience is reading it. Trim and attribute your quotes as you need to, and then use active voice in your writing as best as you can. And I can't say it enough, but the best way to get better at understanding journalistic style and getting better at writing articles is to read. The more journalism you consume, the more articles that you read, news stories, magazines, sports articles, whatever, the more you're going to start noticing these trends and these stylistic decisions that journalists are making. So please read journalism. I would say make it a daily goal to read one article a day. It doesn't take that long, 5 minutes, and you can read an article. All right. Good luck, folks.